This episode does a good job on tying up some loose ends and bringing the plot together, but I feel that in its haste to do this, some gaps are formed that require a lot of assumptions to cover. Hi, Rick here, and this is my review of episode 11 of Season 2 Star Trek Discovery, Perpetual Infinity. It's a dumb name. I enjoyed the first scene where Burnham wakes up and assumes that the previous reveal was a dream. That's a pretty believable conclusion for her irradiated, oxygen-starved brain to come to. Golber's response about a mother and daughter's brain chemistry is quite similar was delivered with just the right amount of sheepishness. But Michael Burnham herself being the Red Angel at some point is not off the table yet. After all, the show goes out of its way to point out that Gabrielle hadn't sent the red bursts and that the suit is DNA coded. So I think it's pretty safe to suggest that Burnham is going to be performing her own time bungee at some point. I was more interested in this episode by the events surrounding Dr. Gabrielle Burnham rather than the threat posed by Control Leland, and I think my suspension of disbelief is being tested by the AI. This stems from the fact that its abilities seem rather poorly defined. I'm pretty sure this is the past version of Control we're dealing with here, as it alludes to the events of prior episodes and is still searching to improve itself. We've seen it affect the digital space easily with holograms and such, but, well, first off, how did it tie Leland up? Where did it manufacture these nanomachines from? How is it usurping control of Leland, and I presume it's rewriting his biology? It has shown tentacles in the future, so maybe that. Plus, it has that drone under its control, so that plus deactivating the gravity in Leland's quarters could maybe allow it to strap him to the table? But we don't see that. I'm having to assume. Oh god, time travel and nanites. Please don't let this be the origin of the Borg. So, the Red Angel suit itself was developed by Burnham's mother. Seems like super advanced tech to me, but at least it was presented with a flaw in that its gravitational time tether will always yank it back to its point of origin. Seems that it can travel back, but not remain in the past, while travelling forwards poses no problem. Dr. B ended up 950 years in the future instead of a single hour in the past. So yeah, your machine sucks at doing the one thing it's supposed to do. I guess that's why they're back to using starships in the future. Thing is, the suit can do so much else. EMP, revive the deceased, rated for atmospheric re-entry and space-proof. It also has infinite data storage. I suppose that Dr. Burnham could have scavenged future tech from the 32nd century to improve her suit, but again, I'm left to assume this. Again, with the amount of foreknowledge she has about Pike, Georgiou and so on, I assume she's secured information from some points in time, either from her visits, which she admits to making, or from some 32nd century database. What is pretty clear though, is that she's been trying to alter the desolate future with many attempts at changing history. We learn that one of her first experiments she conducted was to rescue the World War III inhabitants and jump them to Terra Elysium. The fact that on her return she encountered survivors shows her that time could be changed. Then we also learn that the data sphere was deliberately guided to the Discovery in an effort to stop Control from getting their data as originally destined. Finally, we learn that Spock was the only one she was able to communicate with because of his unique mentality, with the combination of his heritage and his dyslexia allowing him to better understand the nature of time. These elements being brought together finally are gratifying and make the series look more focused, despite the flaws. About the performances. Leland, played by Alan Van Sprang, I like that name, is now fully usurped by Control. Whereas before he did well showing a man who was willing to act for the greater good but maintained a certain noble belief in his actions, now he is playing the part of a much more clinical, effective and, as Georgiou says, resolute version of himself. It's kind of funny that Control makes her a more capable and dedicated commander than Leland did, as Control is very much the one doing the manipulating this episode, rather than Leland being played. I think it's safe to say Leland is dead. Look at this, that's not something you can walk off. I mean, I could be wrong, who hasn't died or had a fake out at some point yet? Though again, I question Control's threat level if it doesn't think to lock out Leland's subordinates' override codes. I'm going to assume it was preoccupied playing with Leland's face for some reason. Like I say, I was far more interested in the Red Angel side of things. Dr. BURNHAM, or rather SONJA SHON, again, fun name, plays a believable mother torn between duty and parenthood. During her multiple attempts to change history, she has witnessed BURNHAM and many others die, probably through her alterations as she tries to prevent the Control wins. No. Total Control, yes, as she tries to prevent the Total Control outcome. This has led her to distance herself from those in the past, including, and especially, her daughter, as she cannot risk the distraction of holding on to hope. Of course, it all proves to be too much when they fail to destroy the data and Leland Control beams down to snatch the information, speeding up his download now his cover is blown. She literally reaches out to BURNHAM, even though it's pointless to try to stay. Emotionally engaging with her daughter is only going to upset her later, something she has learned repeatedly. Georgiou gets some more development here, or more accurately, a confirmation of her character arc as Control plays on her desire for respect, while she struggles with maintaining her image of someone who has no weaknesses, including trying to lie to a time traveller about her not caring enough to self-sacrifice. Ultimately, it's Georgiou who spots Control, but again, I think a little too quickly. Overall, Perpetual Infinity has some satisfying material as it ties together some plot threads, but it's leaving a lot of those loose trimmings that I can't help but notice. I don't want to call it lazy just yet, as the season's not done, so there's still time to resolve a lot. But more than ever, I think the conclusion is going to make or break this one. Thanks for listening. I've been Rick, and until next time. Goodbye.